Welcome, everyone, to the podcast. It is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, 5:09 p.m. And my guest this afternoon is Jocelyn Martin. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm getting
Thank
good
you
at
so much.
I'm getting good at these introductions. Sometimes I ramble on before I mention my guest, but now I'm on fire now. You'll notice I didn't say what the podcast is called because I'm still in flux. I've been, I'm Josh Rackless, and so I could call it the Josh Rackless Show, but I don't like my name. So I've been calling myself Celebrity Josh, and that's the name of the podcast as well. But I'm getting sick of that as well. So I might call myself Spark because I want like a one-word name. And then this could be like Spark University, where I interview like guest lecturers and we learn how to help people's lives and that kind of thing.
That sounds good.
Sure. All right. I've got Jocelyn Martin's approval. So let's see. Oh, and by the way, I'm having this just fell. This is a keyboard. It's an external keyboard that I've been using today because my computer seems to be falling apart. Like the option key is frozen, so it's making weird things when I type. But then I just had to unplug that because I've got my external webcam plugged in, and I'm using my fancy microphone now. I decided to start doing that yesterday for my podcast.
So all kinds of external equipment attaching here and there.
Yeah, it reminds me, I think I bought, or no, somebody sent me one from Amazon, like a multi-pronged USB thing. I could dig that out.
So you can connect everything into that one thing.
Yeah, I think I got it because there's different, like if I want 2 hard drives plugged in to transfer things, but I also have to plug in a webcam or this kind of thing. And I think at the time when they sent it, it wasn't the fastest one. Like there's faster USB hubs that you can get. And so I didn't use it because it wasn't whatever. And but maybe I should dig that out and see if I still have it. And then I think somebody gave me an older one too. I don't know. I haven't used these. This computer is from 2013. It might be on its last legs. We'll have to see. But hopefully I can salvage the keyboard one more time before I have to give Apple more of my money. And actually, my iPhone broke too. The Wi-Fi just stopped working last year. So somebody gave me a replacement iPhone, like just one of theirs, but the battery's so bad on this. It's like, you can see it's charging right now. It's constantly charging because it seems to run out.
I feel like mine is like that too. Is it an iPhone 7?
Well, my last one was an iPhone 6S Plus. This one is an X.
Okay. So I think yours is better than mine.
Yes, I skipped over 7 and 8, but it's just like a friend's that he wasn't even using anymore. So maybe the battery has died on it or something. There's so much. When I'm super rich, I'm getting like a super fast computer. I'm getting like the iPhone 12 or whatever they're on.
All the stuff. Yeah.
Getting an
and
Apple Watch.
Are you going to get some new like insulation? Is that background that I see? Insulation?
Behind me, those are green Bristol boards from the dollar store that I've made my my green screen with. I'll show you so that you can see it's just pasted over the wall. So on the side here, these are just like foam. It's like metal panels, but with some foam in it that my old podcast teacher gave me. He was getting rid of them. And I think he had them up in a room once for acoustic paneling. So I borrowed those. And I've sort of stacked them up in a wall around my desk. And then to do my voice acting, I put a blanket over the whole thing. I've got a couple of tripods I realized I could put on the desk sort of as to hold up the blankets. And then I've got my ring light here.
Oh, yes.
And then
you have a good setup. I don't have a ring light, which I feel like would be good because I'm so like dull in comparison to your bright face.
Yeah, well, I don't even have the ring light on right now. So
really? You just have good lighting then?
Yeah, it's just this light in the ceiling.
Okay.
I use it's funny because I'm so neurotic. Like I don't even turn on the ring light often because I didn't realize like with any lights, they eventually wear out. I mean, it's good for like probably 5 years of use, but I'm like, oh, I don't want to use the digital. Like if I don't need it, like for a podcast, do I have to be beautifully lit? I got it a couple of years ago for like YouTubing. So I realized I was always in a panic about like, okay, when will the lighting be perfect to shoot my video in my condo? And then I didn't want to be beholden to the time of day. So I thought I should get a proper light and then I can just turn it on. And no matter what time of day it is, I'll be perfectly lit for whatever I'm doing, like for my celebrity news podcast or whatever. I hope to do one day. But I should probably just, turn it on and enjoy it. And if it burns out, get another one. That's the way you have to do it. And then in the winter, or last summer, I guess, I started doing stand-up comedy classes on Zoom. And then one day for our class show, they wanted us to put the brick background of their logo in the background. But because this computer's so old, it only lets you do like a background if you actually have a green screen. And so I was like, how am I going to do that? And I went to the dollar store and got green Bristol boards, and I just kept getting more and more so I could, because before I had to like crouch to try to make one or two pieces of paper behind me. But now I've got like this vast thing. I'm in my parents' basement. Like I had a condo in Toronto for 10 years that I sold in 2019, and I turned the second bedroom into an awesome studio. So it had like a couch in the background. It had my ring light set up. I had these thick panels made for the walls and ceiling that were drilled in. So I didn't even have to go under a blanket. I could do my voice acting like right from my desk. The room was acoustically perfect. But the condo was costing so much, and I could get a roommate and a job. But I was like, no, I want to be free. I want to know what it's like to be free and just travel. And I can do my videos from anywhere in the world. And then I just lived in hotels for a couple of months in Toronto and Ottawa. And then I went to Orlando for a podcast conference at the beginning of March. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll stay here. I love Florida. And then everybody's like, there's a pandemic. You have to come back to Canada. I'm like, well, the border's closing. And then I came back, and then I'm like, where do I go? So I've been in my parents' basement, and now they want me out in a month or two, if not sooner. So I'll have to figure out my little setup somewhere else.
Then where are you going to go? Toronto, back to Toronto in a condo?
That is the great question. I mean, it's fun. Yeah. I mean, it would be ridiculous to return to that, but I don't know what else to do. Just before the pandemic, I started applying for some little radio jobs, and, I don't have a lot of experience. So it's hard to break in, but somebody was kind of interested in Timmins for a morning show. And they're like, why do you want to move up north? I'm like, I don't know. Do I? And then I never got back to them, because I was like, I don't want to be trapped in a small town, but I haven't done anything for the past 2 years. I might as well have gone to Timmins. But yeah, do I go back to Toronto? I've started looking at jobs again, and I'm doing some freelance copywriting. And then I applied for some random associate creative director job, and they're pretty interested in it, but it's still remote. It would be in Toronto, but they're working remotely for now, and they might go back to 2 days a week in the office, in which case it'd have to be in Toronto. I don't know. I got an offer in that agency 10 years ago at an agency in New York, and I should have done that. I just bought the condo. So I can't leave the condo, but that was my chance to go to New York. So I feel like, is that it? Is that my life? Do I just live in Ottawa or Toronto? And that's, I guess they're fine. It's, people, it's better than Afghanistan, I guess, but I don't know. I always thought I was supposed to go to LA, and I just never did it. And then time flies, and you're like, ugh. So that's the big question.
What do you actually want to do?
Well, I played tennis yesterday with this woman I met on Facebook, and she's like, you're really good. Like, what sports do you play? I'm like, I haven't ever played tennis in my life. And then I was like, maybe I'm a tennis prodigy. Maybe 40 years ago, I should have been playing tennis, but I'm 48 now. It's probably a bit late to start my tennis career. But people say that you could still do comedy if you're older. So I'm hoping that's possible. But again, I think in my head, I'm still 20 years old. Everything I want to do is like, yeah, I'm going to tour around comedy clubs for the next 20 years and meet girls or whatever. But as a middle-aged man, do I want to be doing that? So I don't know. I try to find people on Instagram who I'm like, I want to do what they're doing. Like, okay, Tony Robbins. Yeah, I'd like to own an island and give speeches to millions of people and whatever. But he sort of was working on that since he was a kid too. So it's hard to jump into it. And then I guess I've always liked the idea of working in radio. I did a bit of hosting on CFRB, and I've told stories on CBC. So anything I can do to talk to people. I mean, what's interesting is that you can do, we're having a conversation on Zoom right now. And so I don't have to necessarily be on radio or on community cable like I was when I was 20. I can talk to people this way, but that doesn't make any money. And how many people are watching? Not many. So
how long have you been doing this for?
Well, I've been talking about doing a podcast for at least probably 15 years. And I kept researching. I couldn't figure out what that involved. Maybe I should have tried harder, but I met with like a comedian in Toronto who has a podcast. I'm like, how do you do this? How do you get something onto iTunes? And yeah, I remember I took notes. I still couldn't get it. And I took a full day podcast class in Toronto and went to a couple of podcast festivals in Toronto. And finally last year, just before the pandemic, I was like, all right, I'm going to this podcast conference probably. So I should have a podcast. So I just signed up for hosting and just I took the audio from a video I just made talking about Indiana Jones, and I'm like, okay, how do I make this file so that I can put it up on a podcast? And so it took me a couple of days to figure out, and finally did it. And I'm like, okay, now I did it. And then I just sort of interviewed maybe like 10 people over the past year, just random people from Instagram or LinkedIn, and just not even really with a specific, this isn't the podcast about golf or something. Like, it's just sort of random conversations that I thought,
talking to interesting people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thought, kind of like, isn't that what Mark Maron does? Isn't that what Joe Rogan does? Albeit, Mark Maron has Barack Obama in his garage and Joe Rogan sits down with Elon Musk. But I mean, they had to start somewhere, I guess. So I thought it could be that. And then, I was interviewing people at TIFF in Toronto on red carpets for a couple of years. I got a little media pass, and I've always liked sort of chatting with people. And so this is the podcast now. So I don't really know. But anyways, I kind of went into overdrive, I guess in the past month, because I discovered this website called Podmatch, which I'd signed up for but forgot about. But then I took another look at it, and it matches you up with people who actually want to talk on podcasts. So like every day you get 2 options, and so I just sort of did like 10 in a row, I guess a couple of weeks ago, and then blasted all those up. So at least now the numbers are going up on the podcast. I'm actually posting things and I'm doing it more regularly. I interviewed an ex-NFL player earlier this afternoon, so I have to get that one up when my keyboard is fixed. And I guess we'll see where it goes. Do you have a podcast?
No, I don't.
Because you're on the radio. So
yeah, I was actually considering, since everyone is starting a podcast, I'm like, oh, maybe I should start a podcast. I've been saying that for about 2 years now, and I have not started a podcast. So
yeah, I mean,
maybe one day, I don't know.
Or maybe you can just be a regular guest, and then I can deal with getting the files up, and you can say, go listen to me on Josh's podcast. Or maybe if you've got an actual job, you don't need to have a podcast. I don't know what the difference. Well, I mean, I know what a podcast is, but I don't know. I mean, there's millions, but there's still less than YouTube channels, and because there's barrier to entry figuring out how to do it, and you got to pay for hosting usually, or so not everybody's just doing a podcast. But I know, I mean, yeah, it's something you could always try if you want. But I'm sure my guests are wondering who you are and why we're talking. So I could read your LinkedIn thing. It says Jocelyn Martin, midday announcer, community content commander at Vista Radio Limited. Does that basically sum you up?
Well, I guess so, because that is literally the job that I started today. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's exciting. Let's
Yeah, so I am absolutely brand new in this position, but for the past 6.5 years, I worked at Rock 95 and Cool FM in Barrie, Ontario.
Wow.
As a music director and on-air personality on both stations, doing different day parts, and web content, voicing commercials, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so like I'm looking at your LinkedIn. It looks like you're kind of a younger female successful version of me in a way. You went to Guelph. I did not go to Guelph, but then you went to Humber College for postgraduate certificate in radio broadcasting. So after York, Glendon College, for me, I went to Humber postgraduate copywriting because my mom sent me an article about it. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. That sounds creative. If I had known there was a postgraduate in radio, maybe I would have done that, because all my life I've been trying to get into radio. I don't know if it existed in 1996, but why not? Radio existed. So that's what I should have done. That would have been a different path for me, but it didn't occur to me. And then I see you're a production assistant at Rogers TV, York region. So that's what I was doing as well. Just after university in 95, or during my last year, I started doing a cable show and I was doing cable shows for 4 years on Rogers in Roncesvalles and then York, I guess. And then, I just worked in copywriting, and then I kept sort of dabbling and talking to people in radio, but never did it. So I'm fascinated with your chart here. So you just got a general Bachelor of Arts at Guelph?
Yeah, and so the post-grad program was perfect because you could do a diploma program or a certificate program. The diploma program is 2 years. The certificate program is 1 year or 8 months plus a 2-month internship. So if you had a degree, you could kind of fast track your way through radio.
Yeah, and that's the same thing for copywriting. It's the 8 months plus an internship.
Yeah.
And I guess the 2 years is if you haven't done anything, then okay, you got to learn actual things, about life. But if you've already studied, then okay, this is just intense thingy thing. And did you always know you wanted to get into radio? Like, how did you discover the radio broadcasting?
No, I did not always know. It was kind of like you said, your mom suggested the copywriting course. It was like my mom suggested radio. So my mom is actually a journalist, print journalism, and she's written for various magazines and newspapers and continues to do that today. But she's towards the end of her career. And so, which was kind of perfect timing for her career, because being in print journalism now, well, there's not really a lot of jobs in that. And so when I really wanted to be in the media, and when I was talking to her about that, I was like, well, why don't I go into journalism? She's like, no, you don't want to do that. Like, print journalism is dying. And so that was when I was volunteering at Rogers TV. And I liked TV, but it had that sort of like diva attitude that I didn't love so much. I wanted something a bit more relaxed, and I found radio was like that. And it was my mom who actually suggested, well, how about radio? And at the time I was like, oh my God, I can never do that. Like, I could never be on the radio. And somehow I just ended up at Humber College in the radio program, and I've been on air for over 10 years now. So
man,
never say never.
So I'm mad at my mom because my mom's a journalist as well. She took journalism at Carleton, and then
cool.
She was the editor of the special advertising sections of the Ottawa Citizen for like 20 years. So she knew all this. I guess she saw an article in Marketing Magazine and cut it out and mailed it to me and said, this is the Humber program. Like, oh, copywriting. I can be like on the show 30 something where they just hang out and play and come up with ad ideas. It's funny because I keep going back going, if I had just taken the other program, I would have had a whole different life. But now I realize, 8 months flies by very fast. Even after the copywriting, I could have been like, oh, well, why don't I try? Or at any point in my advertising career, I could have said, hey, radio program. It never occurred to me. I don't know why I never sat down and sort of looked at my life. Even 15 years ago, I was like 10 years into advertising. I'm like, I don't know if this is right. I want to do other things. And
well, you could do that now. You could do the post-grad radio program at Humber now, or there are lots of other colleges as well who have that. And people of all ages and backgrounds go back to school.
I did look into it. Like, I was sort of having my existential crisis last summer, and I looked into, I think it's, what would be in Belleville? Loyalist.
Oh, Loyalist.
Yeah, I just got an email from them like yesterday saying you haven't used your $95 certificate to apply. And so I watched a little webinar and I typed it in chats, like, would an older person like me do it? And they were like, well, we had some older people like 50 or something, but you can't be like, if you're one of those people that's like, oh, I'm not going to use Twitter, I don't care, but like, you need to be open-minded and yes. Open to the internet. And I'm like, no, that's fine. Like, even recent teachers have asked me to talk about Twitter to their students because I'm good at social media. So I feel like I'm still, aware of technology and
social media is such a huge part of radio right now. We call it the other microphone. Yeah,
so I was even wondering the other day, it's like, I wonder, because it used to be, radio, nobody sees your face, but now why wouldn't you live stream while you're on the air and just have the camera on you at all times so people could tune in?
A lot of people do that. They'll do like their breaks on the radio and they'll have a camera. They have the circle light or whatever. Yeah. And they upload like a minute video of them doing their breaks on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So they do see your face.
Yeah, but can, like, do you go to websites and cannot, like, if I went to your radio website, like, could I actually see the DJ sitting there live, like, or is that they don't want to do that?
Well, for radio websites, yeah, you see they have profiles of the announcers, so you would see picture. But you
No,
mean like
I
the
mean like
social media part, like videos and stuff
no, I
like
mean
that?
if I'm on air right now from 9 to, I don't know, 9 to noon, and I'm on the radio, couldn't I just put on my phone and also be live? So if people want to see me on the website, like they can see me live talking.
Oh, I see. No, they don't do that. It's more just like smaller breaks.
Yeah,
So if you pop on the microphone, it's time to talk in between songs, then you put on your camera,
yeah.
talk for a minute, turn it off, and then you would upload that. So it's more just like little bits as opposed to like a full out live stream. But that could be a thing. Like you never
Yeah,
know.
that would be my thing, I think. But then, it probably, I'm not realizing, like, yeah, a lot of it would be like, okay, now the microphone's off. Now I'm going to pick my nose. Now I'm going to,
Then what do you do? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. But
yeah.
it's kind of like I feel like you would have to put on a show like that whole time, even when the music is playing.
That's the thing. Because now it's just a lot of it is just little bits. It's not you talking straight for 3 hours. It's, like, when people film their podcasts and stuff, it's okay. Now we're playing it. Like be a lot of watching someone work, and that would be awkward probably. So maybe I didn't fully think this through. But I guess I was just thinking, yeah, like Joe Rogan also films his 3-hour podcast, but that's a different thing, knowing that you're just talking for 3 hours.
If you're talking for that full amount of time, yeah.
All right, so much for that. But what are we talking about? Okay, so then my mom screwed my life. Oh yeah, and then okay, so I was saying I was watching, right? So they said, well, yeah, as long as you're hip and everything. I'm like, okay, but I guess, and maybe I don't know, it just seemed to me like, what am I talking about? Like, I mean, as much as I wish I was back in university and a cool kid and all that, would it make sense to go live in residence and doing these activities for like a year or two with kids fresh out of school, and then
you don't have to live in residence. Like where do you live now? Like
I'm in my
where
parents'
are your parents?
in Ottawa, downtown Ottawa.
In Ottawa. Okay. So you could go, what colleges are out there?
There's Algonquin is the big one, I guess.
Oh, you could go to Algonquin College. I actually work with some people who are professors at Algonquin College for the radio program.
Oh, interesting. Because I know all the professors for the advertising program, and I was like, maybe I could go teach, but apparently now you have to have a master's or something. And I'm like, why didn't I do a master's? Anyways, my life is full of regrets. I just was wondering, yeah, I mean, I might as well do it. Like, even if I started it 2 years ago when I thought about this, it would have already been done now. And actually, I want to live in residence. I mean, that's my dream, to be back in residence. It's just, obviously it'd be weird for the kids. But, maybe they have an adult residence. But aside from that, I don't know. I keep thinking, like, I've got all this experience in advertising. I've even done some radio hosting. Like, what would I really get out of this? And then also, would it even matter? Like, the whole point is people want somebody, okay, now you've learned, you're 20 years old, come work in the small town for a couple of years. Like, if I come out of that and I'm 51 years old, is anybody interested? I mean, is there even radio jobs even for young people? Like, I interviewed this guy, Dylan Black, a couple of weeks ago, who was the judge at this comedy contest I was in. And even he's struggling, like losing his job or getting a job, or I don't even know what the scene is like. I talked to, do you know Humble Howard? Like Howard? Yeah. Like when I was 27, I messaged him and said, can I come visit your show? And he said yes. And I don't remember why I didn't. I don't know if it was too early in the morning or what I was thinking. And then I met him through somebody else at work, like, I guess 10 years later. And he's like, why didn't you ever come? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, what are you going to do now? Like, I must have been at least 40 at this point. And he was like, what are you going to, like, you're going to go work in a small town for the next 20 years, work your way up? Like, you're not a kid. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay. So he just kind of talked me out of even pursuing it. And then,
oh, well, that's not good. I feel like you can pursue it at any age.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is hard to get a job in radio for sure, but I feel like the college route is good because you have an internship at the end. So no matter what, you have an internship. So then you have connections at your internship. You have connections to your professors who have connections in the industry. So I feel like the college route is super good because you can do all that networking that's so important in this industry.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk to them again. I mean, what is it? I guess I'd be starting it right now if I was doing it.
Yeah.
God.
But there are programs that start in January too. So
yeah, and I kind of discovered all this when I was looking into it last summer, and it's like, okay, you could start now, you could start in January, and then I was like, maybe I should do a master's, and all the programs are already done. I'm like, what was like, because my dream now is to be, I want to be a cool psychology professor and be the funny professor, but what am I talking about? I wanted to do that 30 years ago. Like, it's so your life starts winding down and you're like, oh God, like what the heck am I going to do? And now I'm getting really upset. I'm like, I could have done that. I could have been in radio all this life. And I never really liked advertising. I was like, ugh. All right.
Never
Well,
too late to start anything though.
yeah, well, get back to me in 10 years when and let me know. But I mean, what would I learn in the program anyways that I couldn't just be like, hey, can I just start working at an agency, like a station now? Like what did you need to, I mean,
Well,
talking.
you learn like technical stuff. You would already have a leg up because of you have all the audio equipment and all of that stuff. So they teach you basic announcing skills. They teach you news, production, sales, which you would already know a lot about because of advertising.
Yeah.
So you learn like the entire radio industry. And then for me, it was so that was in the first semester. And then the second semester, you can choose which pathway you want to go. So say you really love production, then you focus on just production for the second semester. Or if you really love on air, which is what I did, then you focus all on air. And then you learn about speaking and announcing and everything that goes with being on air on a music station.
Yeah. Huh. Do you know Richie Favalero?
Yeah.
Yeah, he went to Glendon with me, and then I don't know what he did afterwards. He was always doing stand-up comedy, so I don't know if he went to radio school but somehow he got into radio, and he was like my big successful radio friend.
Yeah, I think he's from the States, isn't he?
No, he's from I was gonna say Stayner, Ontario, which is possible. I think he was from Stayner.
I thought
maybe you're thinking of somebody else.
Oh.
Well, I don't know. I know he's been hosting in Toronto for a while. Like, he's my age.
Yeah, I know he's on Chum now, but
yeah. So.
Yeah, I could have. Yeah, cool.
He has that American. You know what? Maybe he was from America before. He has that kind of American vibe. He had some kind of story where he was doing comedy or whatever.
Yeah,
possibly. But I know I went to his house for Thanksgiving in Ontario one year. But and that's my radio. And then I've got this friend Tony Daniels, who I don't know what he did. Like, he's just kind of he's a voice actor. So he's the voice of CBC TV now, like tonight on CBC. And then he was so he does a lot of that. But he worked in radio for years, and so he had connections at CFRB in Toronto like 15 years ago. And we met with the program director, and the guy there was like, "Oh, do you want to try hosting?" I'm like, "Well, no, I don't want to do it alone. I'll do it with my friend Tony." So we went on together a few times, and then and then he kept offering to do it myself. I'm like, no, which I should have. I should have just done it, tried it myself, and then I wouldn't have been relying on Tony. And then the program director got sent to Montreal, and the new guy didn't know us, and that was it. That was our little window. I'm like, it's like, and I didn't realize at the time, I didn't appreciate how how valuable that was, to just be able to say, I've never done radio in my life, but here, you can fill in for Jim Richards on their most popular show for a few times and stuff. Like, that was a good in. And then I just didn't do anything with it. But whatever, we can't go back in time, right?
Now, if that happens again, you jump right in.
Yes.
You don't say no.
No, say, here, I'll come and work every night. I don't care. Like, it's just, I'm here. And I guess whenever I've gotten little things like that, I get cocky. Like, oh, I had a cable show. Okay, well, I'm too good for my co-host. I want another co-host or whatever. And I don't realize how hard it is even just get a community cable show of your own, like all of these things that I did. But you live and learn. Young people are cocky, I guess. So then you became, you got some Zumba instructing in there on your list.
Yeah, you always got to fit that in to your radio career.
I think was it Zumba? Is there something else like Zumba? But it's, that starts with Z. It's a kind of dance. It's something like, I don't know. Zayo, or I met a girl on a bus once in Toronto. And then she was always doing Zolta, or I don't know, something like that. It's not Zumba, but anyways.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure it's Zumba. That's the only like popular Z word that's a dance workout. Let
me look. Wasn't dance where it's like, okay, dance. I'm gonna Google this. dance that starts with Z. Just so I know I'm not going out of my but then yeah, nobody's now it's giving me Latin dances. Like that's not a way to search for something. Zolta. Here, I'm gonna type dance and then Z. Dance Z. This is a great podcast. I'm very proud of myself. Allow and then Kazamba, Z dance. Nobody's helping me here, but and see if this is radio, I would tell everybody, can you call in right now and tell me what I'm trying to think of?
Yeah, exactly. It could be a bit.
Yeah. Because I know, yeah. Let's see. All dances A through Z. Okay. So here, there's a website here. This doesn't matter. The nice thing, I was listening to a podcast today, and it was like, the nice thing of a podcast is you can edit out stuff, but I don't edit out stuff. So that Zumba and Zydeco. You're right. I really feel it wasn't. Maybe it doesn't even start with Z. Anyways, well, that's good that you're keeping physically active as well as radio-ish. And then, so you did your like right out of Humber, and then you do your internship. Did you get a job that way?
Yeah, so my internship actually was a job. It was
Zook, something like that. Do you ever heard? You haven't heard of?
Come to you all of a sudden.
You haven't heard of Zook?
No, I have not.
Zouk dance.
How do you spell that? Like
see.
Z-O-O-K?
I think it's Z-O-U-K. Yeah, Brazilian Zouk. How do you dance? Is Zouk a Latin dance? First off, Zouk music is absolutely not from Brazil. It was born in the 70s in French-speaking Caribbean.
You know what came up when I hit Zouk was Zoosk, online dating site, an app to find your perfect match.
I know.
So
I've been banned off Zoosk for some reason. I don't even know what I never liked it. I was like, this is a fake weird dating site and something. I don't know what. I get banned off of the dating sites because people think I'm not real or something. Yeah, Brazilian Zouk, Caribbean Zouk. So it's kind of like salsa or something, but it's like, anyways. All right, I'm not.
Okay, cool. So a dance out of Brazil. Cool.
Yeah, but I never met up with that girl again, and that's it. I could have had a Zouk girlfriend. Oh well. I'll have to go on Zoosk to meet another Zouk. Okay, so
yeah, so I was a promo rep for Rogers Radio in Toronto, and I was doing that while I was still in school. So I was covering events, going to concerts, getting audio of people who went to the concerts and saying how much they love them, or like after the show, or telling me what they're excited for the concert. And then I pieced together the audio, and the morning shows would play them back the next day. So I did like stuff like that, basically covering events, being the face of the station.
Yeah, so that would be my dream job. Was it dream for you, like this young woman getting to go to concerts and talk to people, like, or are you just like, eh?
Yeah, no, it was so cool because the radio stations actually didn't give us like free tickets to the concert or anything, because really we only had to be there before and after, or before or after, depending on like what they needed for that show.
Right.
But for the so for going to the concerts, I would just hang around during the show, made friends with the security guard who would let me in once the show got going. He would like sneak me into like the 100 section if it was at the ACC, which is Scotiabank Arena now. I would just like stand at the back and watch the show. So I saw like some pretty cool artists: Taylor Swift, Keith Urban, there was an American Idol tour, Britney Spears, Pitbull, Enrique Iglesias, a whole bunch of them.
What is the deal with Pitbull? Like, he's kind of like, I'm like, okay, he's bald, so like it gives me hope that I can be a pop star. And he's also got a one-word name that I'm like, that's what I want, like Spark, Pitbull, But what, like, he's big, right? But where did he come from?
It's weird because you never hear of anything that he does, and yet he performs at like every award show.
Yeah, like who is like, I guess if I hear a song and then look it up, like I probably would recognize his songs, but I would never say, oh, that's a Pitbull song. I'm so into Pitbull. I know I'm a Pitbull fan.
That's why it's weird that he performs at like every award show. You would know I Know You Want Me.
Yeah, like I'm sure if, yeah, I guess.
I know that like Latin's, it's like a Latin type song.
Yeah, like the kind of stuff you might hear blasting from a Lamborghini in Little Italy or something. And then he also does a lot of like he's kind of on that Tony Robbins kind of circuit. Like it's always motivational speakers from Tony Robbins and this software company person and Pitbull who will talk about being, but what is he qualified? I don't understand. And then in the videos, like music videos, he's like in his suit and all the girls are grinding on him. I'm like, who, what?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's Pitbull. Yeah. I think when the Latin music scene was really prominent and still really is prominent now, I think he really started that. He got like the Latin music scene into mainstream.
Okay, so maybe he's like a guy like DJ Khaled. They're like, who the heck is this guy? But somehow he was making things.
He's on every song.
Yeah, and he's kind of, I guess, people in the know that he's powerful, so they'll all dance around him and grind him. And it doesn't matter that I don't know who he is because I live in my parents' basement and worked in a career that I did not enjoy. Okay, so then, all right, so you had the coolest job ever, and I guess it's probably different for a girl. Because like as a guy, I would be like, oh my God, look at me. I can go up and talk to girls. I've got like, I'm meeting people. But as a girl, it's not as much like, wow, I get to talk to all these strangers. It's more like, yeah, cool concerts, friends with security. You look kind of cool, I guess. And then.
Yeah, it was fun to get out in the city, especially doing that in a big city like Toronto.
Yeah, because that's a huge step. Like, you know, as I'm applying for jobs now, there's hardly any job, like nothing opens up in Toronto. But maybe that's because people come straight from college and then just don't leave Rogers. Like, but so, you know, there's always job openings in little towns in Ontario that I've never heard of, or there was something in York.
And that's how you have to get your start. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
They say at radio school, you get your start in a small town, and you don't, it's not like everyone has to get their start in a small town, but it's definitely easier to do that because then you can get your experience and then work your way up to a bigger city. So I thought it was cool to do promotions in Toronto.
Yeah.
And get to go to all the big events and concerts and exciting stuff and go around the city and everything. And then after I did that for about 6 months, that's when I was like, okay, I want to do on air. I went to radio school to be on air. If I don't move to a small town and do it, I'm going to regret it. So that's when I moved to Collingwood.
Wow. And see that, yeah, a lot of the openings are for like Collingwood type places. And I've always thought that would be so cool. Like, especially if I was younger, like, live in a small town, get to know everybody, like be the local celebrity. Like that would all be cool. The only reason I was kind of leery of it now is because I never got married, never had kids. So I'm like, okay, if I'm stuck in Timmins, you know, maybe there are no single people at all. So that means I'll never meet anyone ever. But again, I didn't meet anybody in my parents' basement in Ottawa. So whatever. But so, yeah, like, I mean, my dream would be, sure, go to Collingwood. I don't, you know, as an old man, who knows? But okay, so now you're living the dream. You're going to Collingwood. Like, how does that work? Do you see a job opening online, or you just sort of talk to all the people?
Yeah, so there's actually a radio jobs website for Canada, which is milkmanunlimited.com. It has all of the radio jobs on it.
Yeah, and somebody told me about that at some point, and that's where I got my Timmins thing and the Yorkton thing.
Cool. Yeah, so it's a good spot to look. And basically, when I was looking, as I was wrapping up at college, I was applying to like every on-air job in like every city and town in Canada. I must have applied for over 100 like on-air jobs, like even in the Yukon, in Northwest Territories. Like, it was ridiculous. Not that I actually logistically thought I would move there.
Those ads are still up.
I just did it because
there's on Milkman today. I'm like, do I want to go to the Yukon?
Yeah. Yep. But I'm like, if this is the time to do it. If I'm going to do it, this is the time to do it. So when I saw the Collingwood job and I got the call back for that, that was perfect because I'm from Aurora. So it was not like super far away. I didn't have to move to a different province or anything. It was just about an hour and a half really, from Aurora. So I thought that was perfect because it was a small town, but it was still close. And you have Wasaga Beach and Blue Mountain. It's a super nice area.
Yeah, and that's
lucky that way.
That's the thought process I go through. Like every time I look at these jobs, like I'm like, Yorkton, Saskatchewan, what? Or this, you know, something 4 hours out of Edmonton. But when I see the ones that are like Wasaga Beach or Collingwood, or I'm like, okay, Ontario, I know that.
Yeah.
You could drive to Toronto if you needed to. Like, it's a couple hours drive. Like anything like that, I feel like, yeah, I could do that. I could do that. But then when I see the things like, you know, live the life in somewhere in Nova Scotia. And I'm like, well, sorry, where is that? Where?
Well, they try to make it sound really good, right? To entice people to apply, because those are the places that have a hard time getting people, I think. So they're like, move to the beautiful shores of blah, 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 like 10 hours north of blah, blah, blah. Like it's like way out there.
Yeah, we have a variety store. We've got a park, and a new stop sign. And that's kind of what they do with ad agencies too. Like, it's like, do you want to live in Halifax? And it becomes more about, do you want to live in this city? And I guess if you're like, young and you're like, sure, why not go for a year and see what happens? And, or if you're married with kids, say, hey kid, we're all going to pack up and go to this place. Sure. I guess.
And radio is so much a part of community, right? So that's why they really make the place sound good, because if you're moving somewhere, if you're working in, at a radio station in a certain community, like you are a part of that community. You're really, really focused on being a part of that community and knowing you're basically like, it's like traveling. So you're checking out all the cool spots and all that kind of stuff.
The city is part of the job. It's like you are the Killaloo, BC, or whatever the little town is that they're selling to you. So makes sense. I wonder, because as I get older, like I can see myself as a 25-year-old running around, meeting all the restaurants, as a middle-aged man. I mean, Conan O'Brien still goes out and does stuff. So I try to just picture, could you be a grown-up walking around doing it? But I don't know.
Yeah, all those guys do it. Like Jimmy Fallon does all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see
anyone could do that. Yeah.
I could see like Ricky Gervais, or I don't know. Like I think, I don't know. Like it's always the demographic is 18 to, I don't know, it's 45, or it's like up to 55 sometimes, because I guess those people are still alive and doing things. And so I'm like, okay, I could speak to baby boomers and Gen X and Gen Z maybe, if I Google what Pitbull is, or Taylor Swift, or whatever. All right. Well.
Oh, come on. Pitbull, I can see like why you wouldn't know, but Taylor Swift, come on.
I've heard of Taylor Swift. Yeah. She's pretty cool. Very catchy songs. And I know she dates a lot of people, but it's sexist to talk about that. And
I was going to say that's like very like 2000 and like 10. That was a long time ago.
I'm not sure what she's up to these days. I'm sure she's still fine.
She released 2 surprise albums during the pandemic.
Oh my God, that is a shock.
Yeah.
Everybody's up to something. That's the thing. And I'm like, why didn't I do something? I could have made a surprise album during the pandemic, but I'm like,
I know, she makes you feel so bad. She's like, yeah, no big deal. I just recorded 2 like #1 albums. What did you do in the pandemic?
Well, that's
just trying to survive.
I know, but I think I fell for the whole thing. Everybody's like, oh, just surviving. Good for you if you even just got up today. And I'm like, but no, I mean, we weren't fighting a war. Like everybody's home with their internet. Like, why didn't I write a book or just take some year-long master's program or something? I guess it's easy to look back now because you didn't know how long it's going to be. Is it going to be 2 weeks? What are we doing? Like,
well, and it was a survival thing, and it was like people have compared it to war. So I do think that it's like, if you have come through the other side, if you've survived this, like, good for you. That's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, I know. And I try to keep giving myself, like, as much as I like to beat myself up for not being a tennis pro or doing radio 30 years ago, I'm like, you know what? Even if I'd been like a movie star, like who's the Black Panther guy? Chadwick Boseman. It's like, you could die of cancer at 44. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. Or every time I'm like, oh God, I should have written a diary every year. Why didn't I write a diary? It's like, well, you could live in Afghanistan and be blown up on an air, like, it's like on an airstrip. Like, it's, people have worse situations. I'm very privileged, I guess, to be able to bemoan, oh, why did I, get flown everywhere to shoot commercials around the world when I could have been hosting radio instead? Like, nobody wants to hear me complain. I sold my.
You did your podcast during the pandemic. That's a big accomplishment too.
That's true. And I took stand-up comedy classes on Zoom, and I did a contest last summer, and I didn't get past the first night, but I did the same contest last month, and I won my first prize of the night. So that's like a little something. And yeah, the podcast started, so I guess that's something. And I don't know. I mean, I guess you could always just start radio and you do anything. I mean, the thing is, like, I talked to Tony maybe 7 years ago about, like, why don't we do a podcast remotely, like from New York? But at the time, he was like, okay, we can get this software for $5,000 where we can record each other talking and stuff. But now, I mean, we're talking on Zoom for free. Or if I really wanted to up the quality, I could pay for Zencaster for $20 a month and have it record on your end and my end and then mix it. So that might be my next step if, just to try it out, because, I'm talking to quality people like you now. But yeah, so I mean, that's the thing. Like, as much as I'm like, why didn't I do that? Like, it wasn't technically possible, really. Even 10 years ago, that's when I first started filming myself with my phone. Like, it's not like I've 30 years. I mean, I probably did what I could. We all do what we can. I don't know. I remember I was in LA staying with a girl, like, I'm gonna say 15 years ago, because everything to me is 15 years ago. It might have been 20, it might have been 10. I don't know. But I remember we were in a car and we were listening to this radio guy, and I forget his name, but he was kind of like a big controversial DJ that was very rich and everybody liked him. And then
Howard Stern?
No, it wasn't Howard Stern. It was just some local LA guy that lost his job. And then I think he had a blog for a while. Maybe he's back on the air. I just remember thinking, yeah, that's
Joe Rogan.
Maybe he was kind of like an older guy at the time,
Okay.
like a veteran, and he would just take calls. And I'd have to look him up. But just the idea that, okay, I could be a local celebrity and take calls, and I don't know, like it still interests me. Like, I'm like, Larry David's older than me, and I'm like, I would listen to the Larry David show if I could, that kind of thing. So you just gotta keep doing it. But that's what I'm doing, I guess. This is my podcast, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll be the next Joe Rogan or something.
Yeah, you never know. Gotta be in the present moment and enjoy what you have.
Okay, so then my dad just texted. Hold on. We are eating in 5 minutes, 6 o'clock. Are you joining us? I'm gonna send an audio message.
So they make you dinner too?
Yes.
You got a sweet deal.
Perhaps. I'm just in the middle of interviewing a radio host for a podcast, so don't wait for me. I'll let you know when I'm done. But also, I have to go to Charles's store to get my keyboard fixed, so I might walk over there if he's still there. So just go ahead. Yes, that's the thing. My mom cooks every night to keep my dad alive, and then so I usually go up and join them, and I figure it's like a social thing, like it's something we can look forward to all day, kind of thing. So that's good. So when I'm out, they'll miss me, but somehow I managed to keep myself alive, like for 30 years before this. So we'll see. But my dream is to be like, get $1 billion, and then I'm here. I'll buy you guys a house on the beach in Miami or something, or we can all live together. I don't know what. But okay, so you go to Collingwood. Was that like the dream? Like,
was Collingwood the dream? No.
I don't know. I read this book, Duddy Kravitz, by Mordecai Richler, when I was a kid, and it was, I think he went to work at a summer camp. He's in the kitchen, and it's just kind of this idyllic vision of like, wow, in the summer and working with young people and all these adventures. Like, I don't know, do you get a little apartment in Collingwood and then you go to the ring?
No, so I needed to, because I got the job like pretty quickly, and I needed to get there. I needed to move there like pretty quickly. I needed to find a place, and I ended up renting a room in this old lady's house. It was just her and 4 cats and a dog.
Wow.
And I was there for 8 months in that place. And I look back now being like, oh my God, I can't believe I lived with an old lady and 4 cats and a dog for 8 months. But you got to do those things to get started sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking too. Like, I got to find a place to live, and I don't really want to commit to a lease and get a whole place and all that crap again. So I want to find a room with someone or whatever, and then feel like I've got one leg out the door.
And I didn't know how long I was going to be there. It's not like I was going to be able to buy a place or rent a place on my own. So it was a good like starting point, and then ended up getting a roommate. She was in a basement apartment, so I moved in with her. Then from there we moved to an upstairs apartment. So slowly like moving forward in my
moving up, literally.
Moving up in the housing world. So then I was there in the upstairs apartment with her for a while. In total, I was in Collingwood for 3 years, just over 3 years, and then got the job in Barrie at Rock 95 and Cool FM. So that basically the entire 3 years that I was in Collingwood, I was hustling, trying to get something else.
Did you say you were in Collingwood for 3 years?
Yeah.
Wow. I said, and at that time, you always checking Milkman and just sort of sending out your thing at
Sending my demo, like applying to stuff, sending out my demo. Not that I didn't like it in Collingwood. I loved it there. I met some great people and got some amazing experience, learned music programming there, co-hosted an afternoon drive show, which was super fun because you never have that. Like barely even in a major market, but in a small market to have 2 people in the afternoon was pretty rare. So that was a really cool opportunity. I really liked it there, but I knew that I wasn't going to be like at that station for my whole life or like for years and years. So I needed to also get closer to my family as well. And like all my friends were in Toronto and they're like, what are you doing? Wait, I'm calling. They would come and visit me and everything. But it was so far away from everything. So Barrie was great because it was a bigger city, a lot more going on, a lot more people my age, because Collingwood is very much a retirement community, apart from the touristy times and touristy areas there.
So I can go there and be the young guy. They're like, hey, look at me. I'm not retired yet. Like, wow. We got this cool young DJ, Josh Rackless. He's only 50. Yeah, okay. So you made the big move to Barrie.
Yeah, so then I made the move to Barrie, and that was great because it was bigger stations, just more going on, more people my age. So did that and I didn't really have a plan after Barrie. So I was there for quite a while, 6.5 years. It's a long time these days, I think, at a job, especially in radio. But it was great experience, and especially being able to be on 2 stations with 2 very different formats.
Yeah, see, that's kind of cool. Because I interviewed, like I was calling this woman. I was emailing people randomly just like 3 or 4 years ago. I'm in Ottawa. Hey, hot 89.9. Can I come talk to you? And this woman actually got back to me, and I met with the program manager there, or director. And and then she told me about a copywriting job that opened up in Toronto for, I guess, Boom and whatever their sort of sister station was. And that would have been kind of the same thing, 2 radio stations. And at the time, I'm like, I don't want to do copywriting again. And I showed up all covered in rain and a bit late. And then, so I didn't impress them at all. But now I'm like, but at least that would have gotten me into the station. And then I could have been like, oh, by the way, I'm a voice actor. If you need me to, I can go on the air for a minute. Like, at least if I was in the station, they would have been easier to get in. So I don't know what and then I could have kept my condo. But anyways, yes, 2 stations in one is cool.
It's all about getting your foot in the door.
Yep. And then what? So you were still milkmanning it, or what happened after Barrie?
And then so Barrie, I was just chilling for a while, because in terms of like not applying for stuff, because I was really enjoying my time there and getting a lot of great experience. But then again, I knew that I wasn't going to be there for like 20 years or the rest of my life. I wanted to move forward. I had done everything that I could there. I was music director for both stations. I was on air for both stations. I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And then, so just like looking at opportunities, networking, as you do in this industry. And then just got this job, as I said, as my first day. So this is with Vista Radio, which has stations out west and here in Ontario as well.
I've heard of it. I mean, I've seen them, I guess, on Milkman. So I'm always applying to Vista stations, and it's what's a Vista station, or what did your thing say? Go back to
so they have a network of Moose FM stations. There's 19 Moose FM stations, and so I work for this brand new station in Bolton, and it's Moose FM. So I'm going to be the midday announcer and community content commander. So basically somebody who's the face of the station out in the community, doing all kinds of stuff. And
so is this a step up because is Bolton closer to Toronto? Where is Bolton?
Yes, it's definitely going to be hitting the GTA market. So that's really good. And also it's a steady shift. It's middays and it's every day. With Rock and Cool, I was evenings and weekends and fill-ins. I didn't have that like regular kind of everyday shift.
Wow.
And it's Monday to Friday, and yeah.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, you're like a regular solid, you're like the CBC host every day at noon or whatever kind of thing with Jocelyn Martin.
Yes, my own show.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. So what a midday, what's like what hours is that?
So it's 10 to 2.
10 to 2. That is midday. I was trying to think of like what would be noon to what? No, 10 to 2. So that's it. And then you're on there and it's at is it this is one, no, is this one station or two stations again?
So it's mostly the Bolton station, but I'm going to be on air on the Moose network of stations. So
right.
For 4 other markets. So 4 other Moose FMs.
Wow. So they're going to be hearing you in other little towns where they can't afford their own Jocelyn Martin.
Yeah. So Kemptville, Barry's Bay, Bancroft, and Prescott.
Wow.
Which are all like towards the Ottawa area, like near you, I guess.
Right. So I could probably tune in online anyway.
So you'd be able to hear.
Yeah. I could tune if I actually had a radio. Let me think. I'll have to find one and then tune in. But even with, I got a Google Mesh system for my parents, and then we can go, hey, Google, and you can just listen. You say, hey, Google, CBC Radio 1, and it plays like the digital radio station now. So I could probably say, hey, play Moose Bolton, and then I'll hear Jocelyn Martin. And that's kind of fun. My God. And the community content commander, and you're driving around, and wow. So, okay, you're living my dream. So basically I can just live vicariously through you. And then, so have you gotten an apartment in Bolton now? You had to get rid of your place in Barrie?
No, so I'm still in Barrie. It's work from home to start. So I'm going to be doing that. And then who knows, like maybe down the road, I move there or closer to there. But for now, I'm staying in Barrie.
So you actually have a good enough setup that you can host on the radio all day from your home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you don't see it now, but I do have a setup recording program and microphone and all of that.
You and your house plant and your little chair. Yeah. You're just dialing in on your phone. Hi, it's Jocelyn. It looks nice out today, and I looked at the newspaper. It looks like it's going to rain in Kemptville.
I promise I have a setup.
Wow. And so do you need special internet? Like, is it a Source Connect or something, or is it just like you log in? Like, how does that work?
So I haven't started on air there. I start next week. So I'm not sure exactly how it goes, but something that is connected to the network, and I can put my audio through there right to the station.
And your internet would have to be fast enough, right? You couldn't get away like I was visiting a friend sort of outside of Cornwall, and her internet was so slow I couldn't even post on my Instagram story. So that's what I discovered about this digital nomad thing. You need to be in a city that actually has decent, like I could get fiber gigabit speeds in Toronto downtown, and in Ottawa, like I can't even match that. They just don't have it. Like, so, but I guess whatever you have is good. It's audio. I mean,
it should be good. We'll see, but
yeah, that's true. I mean, I can hear you right now. So anyways, I'm sure they've thought of that. I'm just fascinated with the whole thing. And that's interesting too, because as much, I guess it's all pandemic-y stuff, but it's like, because people do things remotely now, like, I could take a creative director job in Toronto and do it from here for the foreseeable future.
It's kind of cool how we can do that now.
Yeah.
Work from anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, which is always kind of my dream. So I guess I should still embrace that. And that's the thing, like a lot of people got big during the pandemic, like doing TikTok for 6 months or little things on Instagram Reels. So, I mean, even if I could squeeze myself into a radio station somewhere, like maybe in 6 months, I could be like really popular in the town, and it's still before I'm 50 that I've sort of made it, it's like, you don't know, I could make anything happen. But I mean, even Joe Rogan wouldn't do radio now. He's got $150 million to a podcast. So maybe you sort of do that. It's all, what was I going to say? The online thing. Yeah. Cause even I emailed the guy from Timmins, a year later or something, saying, hey, by the way, Yeah, whatever happened with that? Just curious. Did you hire somebody? He's like, yeah, we found somebody, but he's on furlough right now because of the pandemic. So even the guy who was hired didn't do anything. He was just sitting in Timmins not doing anything. But then I've messaged the guy on LinkedIn and he's going to let me interview him for my podcast. So that'll be my sideways way of being like, hey, how's it go? How's Timmins going? Can I go back in time and come there 2 years ago? And the program director, where I was, kind of messed up my copywriting thing. I messaged him too, and I'm like, hey, can I interview you for my podcast? He's like, yeah. Hey, I think we talked about you for copywriting. I'm like, yeah. Seems like ages ago. Hopefully he doesn't remember exactly how it went down, but it's just my way. And so the podcast kind of gives me a chance to talk to people that I want to talk to and maybe reconnect and see what's going on. And
yeah, totally.
So that's what it's all about.
That's great.
And there you go. Well, okay. So, I mean, you're definitely living the dream, and you can do it from Barrie, which is crazy. Oh, okay. I have just one more question. Like, have you ever, and I guess it's a visa thing, because I'm always like, why am I just applying for like these little Ontario jobs on Milkman? And I don't even know where I would see radio jobs in the US. Like, they must have similar things for every small town and city, but I guess it's because you got to work in the US to see those jobs. Like, how does that work? Or like even in other countries?
I don't know about that. I did apply to, like a while ago, applied to a job at the BBC in England because I have a British passport. So I would be able to work in England. But that was like far out there. It was kind of like when I was on Milkman applying for jobs in Northwest Territories. Like, it was like, really, am I going to go out there? Probably not. But I don't know. You just kind of sometimes throw it out there and throw it out into the universe and see what happens. But yeah, I'm not sure how it works for the US, because I would not work in the US.
Why is that?
I haven't looked into it. Because I don't want to live there.
Yeah. Well, then that's it. Then you're the king of Ontario, and you can just enjoy that. So I'll look at it. Maybe I'll start messaging some DJs in the States, and like I've messaged a bunch of comedians on Instagram that want to talk to me, so I can find out what the comedy business is like out there. And then I'll try to find a DJ that can talk to me and say, hey, do you got like a Milkman US? Like, how are you guys doing that thing?
Yeah. Ask them what they have. I'm sure, like, if you Google the US companies that they have, you'd be able to find radio jobs like under those company sites. But in terms of like a Milkman, I don't know.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I have applied for a bunch. Like when I see them on, I'm forgetting now. Like, CBS has these things, and it's like things in Washington, D.C. I applied all those and never hear back anything, because probably when you click off not legally able to work in the US, they're like, why would I? Never mind that I can't even break into,
Just click yes, so your application goes through.
Occasionally I do, just because, we'll deal with that when it comes to it. Like, if you guys like me, I'll get the whatever.
Yeah, then you get the visa and all that.
That's why I should have taken that job in New York where they were going to pay me a visa and stuff, because that was my ticket. And then there's often like jobs in Miami, but it's like, are you bilingual? It's for the Latin community or things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of Chicago morning. I mean, there's tons of those jobs. Now I'm remembering. It's just I don't know how people get them or whatever. But of course, it's like anything. I mean, even Humble Howard and stuff couldn't get back on the air, or maybe sort of is now. His podcast is big, and they play it on other stations now and stuff. But it's not easy for anyone. There's not a lot. So I mean, you've been talented and fortunate to sort of play it the right way. And then what's your, sorry if I'm keeping you now, but
no, it's all good.
Yeah. What like, what's your dream then? Like, you don't even want to go to the US. Like, is there some fantasy like you'd be that Howard Stern of Canada, or what would be the next step for like a radio person? You doing it till they fire you, and then you're kind of bitter and you have your own little podcast?
No, I think just like, as long as I'm continuing to grow and learn, then I'm good. I'm happy now that I have like a steady show, and that I also get to be out in the community at events and all of that. But in terms of like next steps and where I want to go, I don't know. Like, I have my music programming background, which is great. So I might want to, continue using that at some point. But yeah, just kind of see. I basically just do a job and see like how it goes, and just, I feel like I change with what sort of things that I want to do for my career. And yeah, so just kind of see how this goes. And then basically I don't know. That's a short answer.
Well, that's all right. I mean, I remember I just remembered I knew this girl. I read a letter to the editor she wrote in the paper once. I thought that's really interesting. I looked up her name and I wrote to her, and then she wrote me back, and we wound up meeting for coffee a few times. And she was really funny. What was her name? I'm trying to remember her name. She's this Jewish girl, and I think I told her to try getting to radio. She was just finishing U of T, and she wasn't sure what to do. And I said, "You're really, really funny. You should go into radio." And she went to radio, and then she was like a morning host in like Winnipeg for years, and I think she's back. And then she was in Niagara Falls. What is her name? She kept coming up with a different name for herself. Like it was like a Jewishy name, but then she just gave herself like a 2-letter thing. Like her last name like was Ha or Ko. It was like this weird thing. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense what your name is. I'll try to think of her. Maybe you know her. But then, okay. And then I guess my last question is just, is it everything I dreamed of? Like you've done, like if I was you, that this would have been my life, doing the Collingwood and the Barrie and the Bolton and being the content commander and all of that. Like, is it not that great? And I can just be like, no, it's good that I did advertising and I just sat and did nothing in my parents' basement. Like, or is it like, oh my God, it's so much fun. Everywhere you go, people are like, oh my God, you're on the radio, and people call in. Because when I coasted on community cable, like 30 years ago, people would like call the answering machine and leave a message, and I'd read the transcript saying, you know, my wife and I are doctors and we tune in just to see Josh and he's so funny. Or when I was on CFRB, a few people wrote letters to or emails, like fan letters saying, you know, I love Josh and he's so funny, and it just made me feel so good. Like, is that the kind of things you experience, or I don't know?
Yeah, so it's super rewarding getting like emails and phone calls and texts from listeners over the years, especially lately when I was doing my like goodbye shifts on Rock 95 and Cool FM, getting people saying some really sweet things, really nice stuff. Also like meeting listeners at events has been really cool. So I'm like, oh, okay, you're who I'm talking to. Nice to see like people's faces and all of that.
Like because you recognize them from calling in to things and stuff.
Yeah, or I don't even recognize them. They just introduce themselves. Oh, I listen to Cool FM, or I listen to Rock 95, or like I love your station, or whatever.
Right. Just in terms of knowing who your audience is, because you don't.
Yeah, or I listen to you every weekend, or whatever. And
wow.
Yeah, and then they're like, or they'll come up to me and be like, "Oh, you're Jocelyn," and I'm like, "Yeah," and then they introduce themselves, and yeah, so it's nice. And I've been to like some really great concerts and events and cool things over the years and get lots of free stuff. So that's a great perk to being in radio. So yeah, I would say it's definitely a really cool job, and it's a great lifestyle as well. And I'm glad I'm in it.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess that's...
Yeah, so sorry, I can't really say that like it's not good, because it's good.
Damn it. I'm going through my Facebook trying to find my friend who, obviously a good friend, if I can't even remember her first name.
Yeah, but I would say like if you want to do something, like it's never too late to do it. That's what I'm a big advocate for that.
It's so scary though at this point to say, okay, I'm going to commit to a year or two of
that's not even that long though.
No, I know it's not that long. Like literally
like the pandemic is like over a year.
I know, that's the thing. I've done nothing. I mean, I had a meltdown. This whole thing when I was talking to Timmins, I was probably 46, turning 47 or something. And then yeah, actually it was before my birthday. So now I'm turning 49. So it's been 2 years. I mean, I could have been doing anything in that, you know, it's like
yeah, but you still can.
Yeah. So I mean, it could have been, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll look into it. I'll apply again. It seems when you've got like a lot of career and experience doing other things, you're like, really, like go back to college and sort of tinker with things, and then yeah, also what's the point if you come out of it in your 50s? It's like, is it even possible? Maybe, you know what, I'll keep asking. I've got a couple of 2 radio program directors to interview, and I'll just talk to them and get the sense, like, because they'll know, would they ever hire someone my age, or what is even out there, or how does this work in the US? Yeah, so I'll get a sense of
Yeah.
of all that. And yeah, and who knows? Yeah, I'll just keep at it. All right. Well, that's all good. Did you work today then from home? Or
I did, yeah.
Oh. So if you're not on air yet, what are you doing?
Just getting everything set up and just starting with like the community stuff and making connections and getting social media stuff going. And
it's pretty exciting. Bolton does not know what's about to hit it.
So I know.
They don't know what's coming. No, you're not in Bolton. You are in Bolton. Yeah, you're Bolton.
Yes.
Okay, so then
you got that right.
Yeah. And so do you do your own social media? Like, are you on Instagram doing things or?
So I'm not personally on Instagram. I have Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Okay. Facebook.
I might be the only radio person not on Instagram.
Yeah.
And not on TikTok.
And somehow you've gotten the job doing like community content and you're like, oh, I never even done Instagram.
Well, I do Instagram for my other stations, Rock 95 and Cool FM. I did a lot of social media stuff for them. So like, yeah, I just personally don't have the account.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a waste of time. Hasn't gotten me anywhere. I think I just was looking at like how many posts have I done in my life? Like I hit, what is it, 4,600 today? I'm like, that's a lot of posts. And then Instagram, 4,605 because I just posted 5 just before you. And it's like, what, they could shut me down at any minute. And I'm like, I put a lot of time into that. That went nowhere. Cool. All right. Okay. So that's it. And then, sometimes at the end of this, I say, well, go follow blah, 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 blah. Like, where would people follow you or discover your stuff? Or I guess they just got to tune into the Moose in Bolton.
Yeah, they can do that. They can go on Twitter.
Yeah. Do you actually use Twitter? I never use Twitter.
Yeah, I use Twitter, but I'm not like a crazy like social media person that posts all the time. I do post and keep it active. and I'm connected and everything. I have a website too, jocelynmartin.com.
Oh, what do you put on there? Is that like your radio demos? Do you have a?
Yeah, I have my demos. I have my like social media linked there. I have some articles there that I've written. I have testimonials, just everything, like all my stuff is there.
Yeah, because they're always looking for what do they always ask for on Milkman? It's like, send us your spokes, your specs, your scope. Is that what it is? Or?
Yeah, your scope or your demo. Yeah.
And then they're like,
show.
Yeah. And then they're like, we want just a raw thing. We don't want to hear the edited thing. We want to hear what you sound like for an hour. I'm like, I don't have anything.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, because a lot of people put together a demo, so they'll grab different breaks from different shows, but they want a scope show. So it's like an hour of your show so that they know what you would sound like in a show instead of just choosing like all of your best stuff.
Yeah.
Which is like, maybe they see it as cheating a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to send them this interview and then they can listen to that if they want. I had one other question. Oh, yeah. Oh, do you know what Milkman Unlimited means?
No.
Yeah, I emailed the guy once, or the website. I'm like, what is that? What is Milkman? Like, what is he talking about? Actually, I can't even remember the story, but it was something like, maybe his name was like something that sounded like Milkman or something. It was kind of just a nickname he had because maybe his name was Mormon.
Oh, I think his last name is Milky or something. Mielke.
Okay, so probably something like that. So maybe his nickname was Milkman, and obviously milkman.com was taken. So I guess maybe Unlimited is just what he added or something. Yeah. So I felt pretty proud of myself for learning that. And then I was sitting here while you were talking, like, what the heck was my friend's name? I feel like it started with L. And then I was going through the vowels and I figured it out. Lena Schulman. Do you know her?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So for a while there, her name, she decided she was Lena Sho, SHO. And I'm like,
oh, okay. That makes sense. Like a short form of her name.
Yeah, but Schulman's not that long, but I guess that was less Jewish. So I don't know. She was in Winnipeg. And then, it says she's morning show host at Jack 96.9 in Vancouver now. So good for her. And, so she was formerly at Burns Communications, co-host at Saskatoon Media Group, and worked at news anchor at Vista Radio in Lloydminster, Alberta. So part of your thing. And then content at Talk Radio 640 AM and then U of T. So she studied radio broadcasting at Humber. So it's the same thing. And I always thought, like, we always had good repertoire and stuff. And I thought, well, maybe I could be her co-host, but she was just too cool and just went off and did it on her own. I'm so jealous because she lived the life of being a funny co-host and all of that stuff. And I'm like, why didn't I at Parallel at the time? Anyways, life of regrets. I guess it's because at the time you never know, right? Like when I'm talking about Timmins, I'm like scared to go to Timmins for a year. And so I'm like, maybe something else will come up. And then you can look back 2 years and go, oh, okay, I didn't do anything. I should have done that. But at the time, you're like, no, I should go somewhere else bigger or do something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to know. It's hard to know. Like, internet didn't exist 30 years ago. So, I mean, I did what I could probably. Who knows? Maybe I would have been in radio, but lost my job already. And now whatever. And so I'd be back here at the beginning anyways. So great. Well, thank you so much for, letting me walk through my life from a different lens. And
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And hopefully you'll come on again and you can tell us how it's going at the Moose and all of that. And,
yeah. So where does this go?
Well, I will take the Zoom file. I will upload it to youtube.com/Josh Rackless. And then I will export just the audio and I'll upload it to my Simplecast hosting. And then that gets sent out to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and pretty much everywhere. Any podcast app there is out there, people will be able to find it. Nice. And that's it. I mean, some people get to go to the trouble of like editing their little thing and making a 2-minute clip to put on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, that's a lot of work. So I just sort of take a screenshot of the YouTube thing and post that on YouTube, on my Instagram, and say, go watch the video. Gosh darn it.
Sorry, my screen is like really grainy now because it's getting dark.
No, I like it.
I just saw lightning out there.
And that's exactly why I bought the ring light, because I was like, if I'm filming a long thing, now it's going to be uneven lighting and everything. So yeah, it doesn't matter at all this. But yeah, so I've talked you into a different lighting situation. That's how much I can ramble. That's pretty good. All right. Well, I'll go have dinner with my parents because I'm a full grown man.
Yes, enjoy dinner.
Yes, and good luck. See, that's so cool. I've learned that you do it remotely and everything. Oh my God, it's all very exciting. So thank you for all this information. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much. Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Bye.